I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, after 5 years, is marijuana legalization a success?
I say it's working.
No, I say get rid of it.
I think that it is insane that it was ever illegal to begin with.
I have to smell it in my apartment building, and I don't think I should have to.
But first, for practically any country around the world, whoever leads that nation is a vital part of the image that country is trying to portray to others. Here in Canada, in the not-so-distant future, we may or may not see a potential change of leadership in this country, which could dramatically alter our relationships with other nations. A Prime Minister who can articulate the best interests of Canadians, either through trade negotiations or global policy, is very important. So we took to the streets to ask people which of the federal leaders they think is best suited for the job. Our question: which of the federal leaders would best represent Canada internationally?
I guess the thing is, I mean, you see Trudeau a lot, and you see Trudeau in that light. I'm not sure I've seen the other leaders, so I can't comment, really.
I think right now Justin Trudeau isn't the person. I'm not going to say there is a person to do it, but I just don't think I don't think he has the guts to stand up to people, and I think it takes someone who's pretty stern and not so nice all the time to deal with political leaders that are so powerful in the world.
I think Pierre Poilievre is probably, in my eyes, kind of the newest face of what Canada does represent and should represent in the future. So I'd say Pierre Poilievre.
I think right at the moment I'd pick Jagmeet Singh.
And why is that?
Because he's probably at this point the least controversial of the three. So that would be my choice.
The conservative fella, I can't remember his name offhand.
And why?
Justin Trudeau is a complete failure to Canada, and he's just got some really wild ideas. I mean, he should have been thinking about things at home here and concentrating on the economy and things at home here instead of gallivanting all over the world doing God knows what. I know you guys are not going to put this in, but anyhow, that's the way I look at it. I mean, Justin Trudeau is a waste.
Justin Trudeau's pretty good right now. He would...
Okay.
Words.
Okay.
International representation is interesting. I think all of them have value in being able to bring it forward. Justin Trudeau has done a lot to be able to keep Canada's stance, and I think that Jagmeet Singh would be a good representation of Canadian multiculturalism. And Elizabeth May has a good view for environment and looking at a global picture. Anyone who's speaking about more openness and engagement for Canada would be a good representative on the international sphere for us.
I would say if I was going to vote for anyone to do anything internationally, it'd be Trudeau.
Okay. Why would you say that?
He's got some charisma. He's young, which is a lot better than many other places, and he's forward thinking. He accepts different views.
I can't say his name. Pierre
Poilievre?
Yeah, Poilievre.
Why do you pick Pierre Poilievre?
Because I like a lot of his answers. He's not going to support the news media anymore, so he says. So I think that's important.
Leaders? Well, I've just threw my support behind Maxime Bernier. I've been a Tory for 50 years, but I don't support Poilievre, and I certainly don't support our Prime Minister. I'll leave it at that.
Trudeau. I feel like that's not popular, but Trudeau.
Why do you say the Prime Minister?
I just think he's just very well spoken and knowledgeable, and probably psychologically a little of that is attached to his father, whom I thought was very eloquent in the world stage.
Oh, that's a tough one. We can only choose from the ones we've got. I mean, Justin, knows how to book the hotel rooms in Europe and stuff. I don't know. I don't think we've got a great foot forward here.
Probably Bernier, Maxime, and then Poilievre, and then Trudeau.
How did you come up with that order?
I mean, I think they're just trying to do the right thing for the country instead of just trying to impress the rest of the world.
Well, honestly, I'm skeptical about all of them. Justin's been around a while, and it's been debatable how well he's done. I think Pierre Poilievre is absolutely horrible. No, not at all. And Jagmeet, a little bit untested. So
I would like to say Jagmeet Singh is a good international representative, well-spoken, a man of immigrant parents, so definitely has that connection to the immigrant community. So some factors like that would definitely be something that would help him represent Canada on the global stage.
After the fallout from the so-called liberal sponsorship scandal almost 20 years ago, Prime Minister Stephen Harper created the role of Ethics Commissioner to coincide with the Federal Accountability Act. The role of the Ethics Commissioner is to keep elected officials and senators in check and make them accountable for any questionable behavior. The Ethics Commissioner is independent of the government and reports to Parliament. But there's been some complaints that the position of Ethics Commissioner does not properly wield enough power for the person occupying the role to properly discipline those who break the rules. So we took this question to Canadians. Should Canada's Ethics Commissioner have more power to punish MPs and senators for repeat ethics violations?
I think so. I don't understand why they give these people positions when they don't have the power behind them to do what needs to be done.
So you think there should be
more repercussions on for the bad behavior if it's determined that that is indeed what has happened.
Yeah, the key word here is prohibited. Anyway, MPs are subject to a high standard of behavior. They're representing the people of Canada, and of course we must punish them. But in the first place, they shouldn't behave the way they behaved or all the trespasses they committed. But it's a good thing to have more control over this topic. So I think yes.
I believe so. I mean, the Ethics Commissioner should hold the highest standards in the land, and so I believe so.
I do think so, but I think that we have to make sure that the partisanship is taken out of that equation, and we see that all throughout, I think, Western democracies, is this partisanship and polarization on each side, so we've got to take those issues out. And so the Ethics Commissioner, I think, is as long as that person's well respected throughout the political community and throughout the people of the country, I think that they could probably be the venue to reduce some of that partisanship.
As long as the Ethics Commissioner is at arm's length and not beholden to any particular government, that sounds actually pretty reasonable. Frustrating for those in power, but pretty reasonable.
Yes, why not? Absolutely. They should be able to, lay down the full force of the law if they're breaking the law. Bottom line, right? You do something wrong, you should be penalized. I mean, if you're in a power of politics where it's a bit, objectionary or subjective rather, then perhaps maybe you shouldn't be jailed, but your career probably should be over.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure exactly what the powers they have are, but going along that question, I think we should also maintain the appointment of judges as being independent and not kind of go down the slippery slope that the U.S. has on things. But I absolutely feel that we should be empowering commissions with some more subpoena powers and be able to charge, whether they're MPs or, as might be relevant, MPPs with certain crimes. I think Canada does a very, very poor job on it. I think politicians have been getting, not only politicians, but I think many business leaders have been getting away with a lot of stuff for many, many years. I think the U.S. does a much better job on oversight of that kind of stuff. And yeah, they've got their problems in terms of lobbyists and whatnot, but at least their Justice Department does go after people.
Well, absolutely. I mean, ethics is something that makes our government run smoothly and transparently. So definitely some type of disciplinary action should be taken when politicians violate that. No, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know who should be in particular who should enforce it, but I think definitely I think you hear in a lot of countries that's happening at the higher level. So definitely someone, but again, I don't think it's my place to say who would enforce that.
Definitely.
Why?
Because why should they get away with what they're getting away with? There should be somebody watching them, and yeah.
100%.
Why?
Because they need to hold all politicians accountable, regardless of what party they're in. They should be, just like if I break the law or ethics rules within an organization I'm in, then I should be gone, and so should politicians. And certainly our Prime Minister has done that in spades.
Yes, they should.
Tell me why.
Because if we can't have anyone to be able to make people accountable for the choices that they make and the way they behave, what's the point of overseeing what they're doing?
For repeat ethics violations, I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
hmm
What do you think?
I think there should be consequences or it's pointless.
What consequences would you like to see?
Depends on the violation, right? And subject to that, if I don't know. You'd have to give me a certain situation, but I think it would have to be relevant to what he did. But there has to be consequences, or it's just a cover. It's just a facade.
Which of the following federal party leaders was not born in Canada? Jagmeet Singh, Pierre Poilievre, or Elizabeth May? Jagmeet Singh, Pierre Poilievre, Elizabeth May.
I'm gonna go Elizabeth May.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Jagmeet Singh.
Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre Poilievre.
I should probably know this, right? I'm going to say Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May.
Pierre.
Elizabeth. Is that wrong?
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure. I think it's a toss-up of Elizabeth or Jagmeet, but Jagmeet would be the obvious person. But I believe that it could be Elizabeth.
You're right.
Thank you.
Of the federal leaders whose party has seats in Parliament, only Elizabeth May was born outside of Canada. Elizabeth May was born in Hartford, Connecticut, and immigrated to Canada with her family when she was a teenager, settling in Cape Breton. She graduated from Dalhousie Law School in 1983. Throughout her life, Elizabeth May was passionate about environmental issues, eventually becoming the founding executive director of the Sierra Club of Canada in 1989. In 2006, she ran for and was elected leader of the Green Party of Canada. After losing in 2 elections and 1 by-election as leader, she finally won her seat in the 2011 general election, running against and defeating incumbent Conservative Cabinet Minister Gary Lunn, making her the first Green Party candidate elected to Parliament. The pushback by the Saskatchewan government over gender transitioning medical procedures for those under the legal age of consent has been garnering some attention. At the recent Conservative Policy Convention in Quebec City, delegates voted to prohibit surgical interventions for those under the age of 18. But those on the other side of this debate may feel their fundamental rights are being violated if the gender they were assigned at birth doesn't match with who they identify with today. So, should these procedures be available to those under the legal age of consent? Our question. Should gender transitioning medical procedures be prohibited for people under the age of 18?
I think so, because it's a procedure that's so radical to alter your body in such a way. Some type of medical intervention and parental oversight, I think it's mandatory that something like that should be in place, as opposed to a young person kind of solely making that decision on their own. Yeah, absolutely.
I think prohibiting any kind of healthcare for anybody is foolish. I think individuals should be able to make that choice. If they have to make that choice with family members, I think they should be making that choice in all the options that they need for the good of their physical and mental well-being. Those should all be on the table. And it's really, as long as they're medically sound and the medical community agrees that they're legitimate, then that's all we need. I think we have the laws we need in place for governing those kinds of decisions.
I'm not really sure. I mean, legally, I think if you're a parent, and of course I have my daughter here, we're responsible for them under 18. So I'd say right now, I think parents have to give their blessings on stuff, don't they? Whether they should or not, I don't know. At what age should kids have the license to decide on their own fates? Well, that's a big question. I mean, being from Quebec, we were allowed to drink at 18. Then I came to Ontario and it was 19. But you're allowed to go into the military at 18 and go and get yourself killed. Should we be allowed to vote at 16? I don't know. I think those are good questions that we have to ask ourselves. I don't know the answer.
I don't have children, so for me that's a really difficult question to answer. I don't know. I don't really feel that,
I have the right to determine somebody else's choices and another family's decision. We can all have our opinions and, judgments on whether we personally think something is right or wrong, but when it comes to like prohibition and having the government get involved, I don't know, that's not really, I don't really know if that's their business.
I think so, yeah. I don't know, I just think like 18 or 21 is just where, you kind of make, not better decisions, but you kind of like more of a grown-up. I just don't know if, younger people are kind of quite there to make that kind of decision.
100%. Because I think that kids should be learning about English and math and things that we've been learning about forever and not changing their bodies. I think after 18, go all for it. Be who you want to be. But before then, I think serious questions and concerns should be brought up before decisions like that are made about a kid's body. Yeah, you can't get a tattoo at 18, but you can have gender-affirming care.
That's a good question. I guess the question is, to what extent does the role of the family play in making these decisions? And are those safe spaces? On the one hand, you want to build families, build communities. On the other hand, you want to balance individual rights. So I think it's still an ongoing conversation.
I know parental consent is needed, and if it's given, I don't see why it can't happen.
I agree. I mean, to be happy in this world is what we want for everyone to be, and if that is the case, then you know what? I believe everyone deserves to be happy. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I do think that there is a certain age where you shouldn't be allowed, like I think 8 years old is quite young, for example, but I think a 17-year-old, like mature 17-year-old, it depends. So it's a yes and no answer for me, but I think what's really important is just letting people express themselves, really, and if it's an issue, it definitely needs to be up for discussion with lots of healthcare people involved and family and lots of support so that it is making the right decision, but I would say no.
Yes. I think my rationale for that is if we recognize that people under the age of 18 can't drink alcohol, they can't, they're getting a driver's license at 16, they can't have a firearms license till they're 18, they can't vote till they're 18, they can't, all of these things that they cannot do because of the ability to, or because we're questioning their judgment, then why would we let them do make permanent changes to their body prior to being fully developed intellectually and maturing emotionally?
Yes, I think they should, because they're kind of young to make a decision like that. It's a pretty darn serious decision. So yeah, you should be a little bit more mature.
That's a difficult one, but I think that if that's what the person chooses, then they should be allowed to have it. But I think, as in any medical procedure, for somebody under 18, there should probably be parental consent, just because it is a deeply medical procedure to be done.
No, I don't think it should be banned or prohibited. It should be a case-by-case basis, because blanket statements exclude people who really need it. And suffering for 15 years, knowing that you should have a different gender, is cruel.
Okay, anything to add?
I don't think that it should be banned. I think it should be the choice of it should be their choice, and they should consent to it. But I don't think that it should be banned.
No, they should not be. As like it's been said before, and I'm sure people say it again, that if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. Like, you can't go through life not knowing who you are.
Definitely.
Why?
Why? Because they're not old enough to make a decision, an informed decision, let's say.
Well, the age of majority is 18. I joined the Army at 16, and I joined the British Army at age 16. And to go in the Army, my mother had to sign a dotted line for me. So most adults aren't adults until they're 18, so I don't think that kids, especially younger children, should be making decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives.
Under 18, I think so. You can't get a tattoo until you're 18, so why should you be able to change your entire, I don't know. I think that, I agree with gender-affirming surgery, but I think that your brain should be fully developed first.
Okay, madam.
I agree with that. I think anything that's irreversible should be left till they're 18. And lots of psychological, because some of them are regretted too.
Tuesday, October 17th marks the 5-year anniversary of the legalization of recreational cannabis here in Canada. The goal of the Liberal government's Cannabis Act is to keep it out of the hands of children, take a bite out of the black market, as well as giving some relief to the criminal justice system with less convictions. Who is permitted to sell cannabis will vary from province to province. But with pot in the mainstream marketplace for half a decade now, is it still working or is it a bust? Our question. After 5 years, is marijuana legalization a success?
I'd say it's working.
And why do you say that?
Well, because there's less negative impact, as I said once, and how much time was spent prosecuting people for what real aim?
I think so. I think it's been less conflict about it since it's been, legalized than we've seen in the States where it's not legalized. People are doing anything they can to get it, and it's causing problems. So
I think it is a success because I believe in a little bit of freedom, and people now can. I mean, before 5 years, people were smoking it anyways. At least now you can do it in the open. So
we don't partake,
but we know people who do. Yes. Yeah, we do, and they can do it freely, liberally, and they don't have to go in their basement and smoke.
To some people, not to me, but...
Why not to you?
Because I have to smell it in my apartment building, and I don't think I should have to. They were trying to cut out smoking, and then they bring in marijuana. Did not make sense to me.
No.
Why?
Because I know from sources that in policing that the illegal market is still there.
The illegal market?
Yeah, the people who want to buy it without going to a store.
Okay.
And yeah, and drugs are prevalent everywhere you go on from Nova Scotia, and they're prevalent there as well.
Yes.
Why?
And I don't partake because of the underground and the wasted money from law enforcement when they could definitely be using that in a better way.
Okay, and that.
I think it's more controlled too, so you're not getting anything laced with something, and I do partake, so it's been good for me.
No, it's a failure. Why? I see it causing more problems than anything else. I mean, you got a bunch of kids strung out on these drugs on the street now. It's not solving anything. I mean, if you want to, like for simple, I should say for a little bit of marijuana, fine, but it seems like the problem's getting worse. I mean, the crime rate is even going up. So, I mean, no, I say get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people went to jail for no good reason. So I think it should be legal. It's your choice.
I would think so. Considering the state in the neighboring countries and other countries where marijuana is not decriminalized, I think we made the right move because we've prevented a whole lot of accidental and drug-induced deaths. I think we made the right move in that respect. And now that it's regulated, and I was fairly surprised by the amount of flavors and varieties of marijuana out there. And I don't think that would have been possible without the legalization and the regulation of marijuana. I think we made the right move with that.
No. People are using it more freely while driving. It's more evident. I see it all over the place. Doesn't matter if it's Alberta, Nova Scotia. I'm seeing it everywhere. It's a problem. And you know what? It's like alcohol. We have regulations around it and rules. People choose to abuse that one more than I've ever seen. I don't see people drinking on the streets, but yet I see people smoking marijuana daily. And that's wrong. So we need to do something about it. I think it should be retracted, or we should start enforcing the law a little bit better. So that's my opinion on that one.
I don't think so. I think that legalization of marijuana is, to me, kind of not much of a big deal, but if its goal was to reduce illegal markets within the marijuana community, it hasn't done that. So if its goal is to introduce marijuana to more people within the country and community, I think it's done that. But at the same time, I'm not too excited about people being prosecuted for possession of marijuana.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know plenty of people who were doing it well before then and are now doing so legally. It is better for them because they know exactly what they're getting. It is more convenient for them. And also we're making some tax money off of it. I would actually like to see that expanded into some more non-dangerous substances such as like psilocybin and things like that. Like I think it's a good stepping stone to start to decriminalize things.
I think it's a success. I didn't previously smoke marijuana. I now smoke it once or twice a week. I think that it is insane that it was ever illegal to begin with. And it is as casual and as harmless, in my opinion, as a glass of wine.
Yes, I think so. I closely followed it when the legalization process was going on, and a few months and a couple of years after that. And I honestly, like, even personally, I didn't see anything change in the city. And like, people thought that, cannabis is going to be legalized, so we're going to see people smoking cannabis all over the place and everywhere. And it's actually not like that. Like, everyone, like a lot of people use, and I don't think there should be any prejudice against it, is, to me, honestly, alcohol is a way worse recreational drug. Like, you can see like car accidents and drug driving and all that kind of stuff, and you see people aggressive when they're under the influence of alcohol, and honestly I'd never seen this happening with cannabis.
I think it's something that definitely benefits the economy, and I think it's also something that makes it safer for the public when it comes to access to drugs. It's always, once again, on education, making sure that people are educated on the use of drugs and the safe use of drugs is really important. And I know that it's had a good effect on the economy. I don't really have a ton of education on that specific subject, but I do believe that it's had a positive impact, at least on the drug use of it and the safety of drug use.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.